So I think we came to page 423. Line 304, I think that's where we stopped. So we have seen Narad coming down to the city of Madra and being welcomed by the king and the queen and singing to them of divine love and the plan of evolution of the world, the final fulfillment when the demons will be released. And while Narad is singing, Savitri comes. She is returning from this journey, this year-long journey in which she's been traveling all over the country looking for her destined partner. So Narad sees her and he somehow he makes as if he doesn't know who she is. Yeah. Who is this? And where is she coming from? She's obviously returning from a journey. So we read Narad's speech, and then we read Asvapati's answer. And that's where we stopped on page 423. Asvapati has realized that there is some doubtfulness in the words of Narad, that perhaps there is some bad news coming. And so he says, please give your blessings. Let once unwounded pass a mortal life. So I'll read on from there. But Narad answered not. Silent he sat, knowing that words are vain and fate is Lord. He looked into the unseen with seeing eyes. Then, dallying with the mortal's ignorance, like one who knows not, questioning, he cried, on what high mission went her hastening wheels? Whence came she with this glory in her heart and paradise made visible in her eyes? What sudden God has met? What face supreme? To whom the king, the red Asoka watched her going forth, which now sees her return, arisen into an air of flaming dawn, like a bright bird tired of her lonely branch, to find her own Lord, since to her on earth he came not yet. This sweetness wandered forth, cleaving her way with the beat of her rapid wings. Led by a distant call, her vague, swift flight threaded the summer morns and sunlit lands. The happy rest her burdened lashes keep, and these charmed guardian lips hold treasured still Virgin who comest, perfected by joy, reveal the name thy sudden heartbeats learned. Whom hast thou chosen, kingliest among men? And Savitri answered with her still, calm voice, as one who speaks beneath the eyes of fate. Father and King, I have carried out thy will. One whom I sought, I found in distant lands. I have obeyed my heart. I have heard its call. On the borders of a dreaming wilderness, mid Shalva's giant hills and brooding woods, in his thatched hermitage, Dyumatsena dwells, blind, exiled, outcast, once a mighty king. The son of Dyumatsena, Satyavan, I have met on the wild forest's lonely verge. My father, I have chosen. This is done. Astonished, all sat silent for a space. Then Asvapati looked within and saw a heavy shadow float above the name, chased by a sudden and stupendous light. He looked into his daughter's eyes and spoke. Well hast thou done, and I approve thy choice. If this is all, then all is surely well. If there is more, then all can still be well. Whether it seem good or evil to men's eyes, only for good the secret will can work. Our destiny is written in double terms. Through nature's contraries, we draw nearer God. Out of the darkness, we still grow to light. Death is our road to immortality. Cry woe, the world's lost voices wail. Yet conquers the eternal good at last. So we'll go back to page 423 and line 305. Who should start, Rosa? You will start?
Yeah. But Narad answered no. Silent, he said, knowing that words are vain and faith is love.
Thank you. So they're expecting Narad to give a blessing. But he doesn't say anything. He sits silent. He knows that it's useless to say anything because here fate is ruling. But then he does speak, Dhanalakshmi.
He looked into the unseen with seeing eyes. Then, dallying with the mortal's ignorance, like one who knows not, questioning, he cried, "On what high mission went her hastening wheels?"
Thank you. Yes. So he has this power of looking into what cannot be seen by human eyes. He looks into the unseen with those inner eyes. And then dallying, it's like playing with the mortal's ignorance. He knows that all the people around him are human beings who can't see into the future. They don't know. So he pretends to be like them. He asks a question like somebody who doesn't know anything. So he asks, so what was the mission? Where has she been? What has she been doing? On what high mission? It must have been something important for you to allow your daughter to go out like that. And she's come in a hurry, hastening wheels, traveling quickly. So he's going to ask more questions, Nina.
Whence came she these glory in so far? In paradise, made visible in so eyes.
Next line.
What sudden growth has made, what face supreme?
Yes. So you know this word whence? People who've been coming to this class for a long time, they know it, no? Yes. Where from? Yes, from where has she come? Looking so joyous, so filled with this glory in her heart, paradise made visible in her eyes. There's such a happiness there. No? He says, has she met some divine being? Some supreme face? So then it is the king's turn to answer. Justin, would you read?
Yes. To whom the king, the red Asoka, watched the going forth, which now sees her return, arising into an air of flaming dawn, like a bright bird tired of a lonely branch, to find her own Lord, since to her on earth he came not yet. This sweetness wandered forth, pleading her way with the beat of her rapid wings.
Thank you. So the king replies to him, to Narad, and he indicates the time of year. This is the time of year when the red Asoka tree is blooming. He says that when she went away, the Asoka tree was blooming. I think this is the high summer. And now that same time of year sees her return. So she has been gone a whole year. And all he knows is that one morning, whoops, off she went. Of course, he had told her that she had to go, no? But he says off she went like a bird that has become tired of being alone on her branch. She has flown off to find her mate because he did not come to her, so she will have to go to him. No? So this sweetness went out, wandering cleaving her way. Actually, this is a word, it means to cut. We use it of a ship that cleaves its way through the sea. No? But here he's imaging Savitri as a bird who's cutting her way through the air with the beats of her rapid wings, flying off to find her mate. Since, because. Yeah. We have to do this since such and such hasn't happened, because something hasn't. We're on page 424, Dara. Yes, Leila, would you read, please?
Led by a distant call, her vague, swift flight threaded the summer morns and sunlit lands.
You can read the next sentence too.
With happy rest, her burdened lashes keep, and these charmed guardian lips hold the treasure step.
So it's as if she's following. When a bird flies off, perhaps it's because it has heard another bird calling in the distance. So her flight, he's still using this bird image. She's gone swiftly, she's gone quickly, and yet he says it's vague. Actually, she didn't know exactly where she was going. So she has threaded, she's passed through these summer mornings and the sunlit lands. And he says, that's all I know. It looks like the result is happy. The rest, it seems to be happy, but she's the only one who knows it. So her burdened lashes, the lashes are the eyelashes. So they've got something, her eyes have something to tell, and her lips have something to tell. These, he says, they are charmed, magical lips, and they are guarding this secret. They are holding the rest of the story. So then he asks her to tell the rest of the story. Regine, would you read, please?
Virgin who comest perfected by joy, reveal the name thy sudden heartbeats learned. Whom hast thou chosen kingliest among men? And Savitri answered...
No, we'll just stop there. Let's find out his question first. So he addresses Savitri, virgin, beautiful young woman. You've come back to us, perfected by joy. You are even more beautiful than when you went out, because now you have found the love of your life. That joy has made you more perfect than you were. So now it is time to reveal the name. Tell the name of that person, the name that you learned, that your sudden heartbeats learned. The heart, when she recognized Shraddhavan, the heart has started to beat more strongly, no? And she was supposed to choose. So who have you chosen? That person that you have chosen must be the most kingly, the most kingly, not in the sense of being a ruler, but in the sense of being a truly noble person. He must be the kingliest, the most like a king of all men. So, Revati, you could... Oh, sorry, Anna is there at the back. Will you read, Anna? And Savitri answered, yeah?
And Savitri answered with her still calm voice, as one who speaks beneath the eyes of fate. Father and King, I have carried out a will. One whom I sought, I found in distant lands. I have opened my heart, I have heard his call.
Yes. So now this is the first time that Savitri speaks, and Sri Aurobindo tells us something about her, that her voice is calm and still. She's not excited, she's not bursting in with all this good news. She's very calm and still. And she speaks in a solemn way because it's as if destiny is watching. And she tells him, my father, king, I've done what you told me to do. I have carried out, I've fulfilled your will. I went seeking, I was seeking one whom I sought. I found that one. I found him in faraway lands. I've followed my heart, I've obeyed my heart, I've heard its call, and my heart has told me who is the one I must choose. So now she's going to tell who it is. Revati, you read, please.
In the borders of the evening
Wilderness.
mid showers, giant hills, and brooding woods. In his touched hermitage, Daimasena dwells, blind, exiled, outcast, once a mighty king.
Thank you. So she starts to tell, who has she found? There on the borders of the land of Shalva, which is up in the Himalayas, in the foothills of the Himalayas. So there are high hills and wonderful forests, brooding, silent, undisturbed woods. There is living Dyumatsena in a hermitage. He's just living in a simple thatched hut in the forest. Once he was a mighty king, now he's an exile. He's been sent away from his country. He's an outcast. He's not supposed to enter his land and his city anymore. And he is blind.
What's the difference between exile and outcast?
An exile simply means somebody who's living not in their own country. They are living somewhere outside. But an outcast is really somebody who's been sent away and who's not allowed to return. So if we remember, if we go back to Sri Aurobindo's note at the beginning of the poem, he explains the symbolic significance of King Dyumatsena. The name is a wonderful name for a king, no? It means the one who has many shining armies, armies of light. And that's a symbolic name. Sri Aurobindo equates it with our mind as it should be, our divine mind. But that divine mind, if it becomes ignorant, it loses its power of vision, and then it loses its power. It can't rule anymore. Of course, the tradition was that anybody who was handicapped in any way, whether he was blind or lame, he wasn't fit to be a king. But what happened with Dyumatsena in the traditional story is that when he became blind, then his enemies took advantage of that and drove him out of his country. So now he's living exiled, outcast in the forests, just beyond the borders of his own country. Joanne?
The son of Kiumatsina Satyavan, I have met on the wide forest's loamy verge. My father I have chosen, this is done.
So very simply she puts it, no? Tells who he is, and I have met his son. His name is Satyavan, the one who possesses the truth. I have met him on the verge, on the edge of the forest. It's lonely, there are no people there, no habitations, no? On that edge of the forest. I've met him and I've chosen. So this is settled, this is done now. Would you read?
Astonished, all sat silent for a space. Then Aswapati looked within and saw a heavy shadow float above the nymph, chased by a sudden and stupendous light. He looked into his daughter's eyes and spoke.
So we'll pause there. So everybody's just amazed. Nobody says anything. And Aswapati looks within himself. He also is a great rishi, and he has some power of inner vision, you know? And he sees the name Satyavan. There's a heavy shadow over it, but suddenly that shadow is chased away by a stupendous light, a very, very powerful, magnificent light. So he looks at his daughter and he speaks. What does he say, Mahalingam?
Well hast thou done, and I approve the choice. If this is all, then all is surely well. If there is more, then all must still be well.
You can read the next two lines also.
Whether it is seeing good or evil to men's eyes, only for good the secret will can work.
So he gives his approval. It's an interesting fact that the parents don't say, oh, he isn't a king anymore, he's an outcast, he's not suitable. No. He says, well, you have done well, and I'm approving your choice. He says, if this is all, then surely everything is okay, everything is fine. But he's seen that shadow. So he says, if there's more to it than this, it can still be all right, because he saw the shadow being chased by the light. And he says, very philosophically, he says, whatever it may look like to us, whether it seems good or it seems evil, the secret will, the divine will, can only work for good. It's going to be all right, whatever it is. And then he elaborates what he was saying. Gumsun, you would read.
Our destiny is written in double terms. Through nature's contraries, we grow nearer God. Out of the darkness, we still grow to light.
Yes, he's saying our destiny, our fate, or what these things that seem to control our lives and guide our passage, it's written in double terms. Things that seem to be good and favorable, and things that seem to be unfavorable. So we are progressing, we're growing nearer to our divine goal, to God, through nature's contraries, through the play of opposite forces. And we are now in the darkness of ignorance, but through all this play of forces, gradually we are growing towards the light. Would you read?
Death is our road to immortality. Cry woe, cry woe. The world's lost voices wail. Yet conquers the eternal good at last.
Thank you. So even death, we pass through death, perhaps we pass through many deaths and many lives to reach the full consciousness of immortality. So here in the world, we judge things in our way and we say, oh, what a disaster, how terrible, woe is misfortune. No? And yet, despite all our misgivings and our fears and anxieties and the way that we perceive things, he says, still, it's the eternal good which is going to conquer at last, in the end. Sergei.
Then why the sage had spoken about the king, in haste broke out and stayed the dangerous word. O Savior of the ultimate ecstasy, lend not a dangerous vision to the life, because by native right thou hast simply.
So the Narad is going to say something, but the king stops him, quickly stops him, broke out and stayed the dangerous word. He doesn't want Narad to put anything into words. He's seen that shadow and he doesn't want it to be spoken out, because Narad has this power of truth speaking. Whatever he puts into words is going to happen. So he doesn't want him to speak. So he addresses him, he says, you are the singer of the ultimate ecstasy, the supreme delight. And that's what he had been singing to them about earlier. No? He says, don't give a dangerous vision to us who are blind. We don't see. Don't lend your vision to us, because for us it may be dangerous. So he says, by native right, by your inborn birthright, you have seen clearly, but you don't have to share what you have seen with us who are blind. And then he explains why he thinks he's asking this, Bhuvana.
Impose not on the mortal's shameless bread the dire ordeal that foreknowledge brings. Demand not now the Godhead in our acts.
It's a very terrible and difficult thing to know in advance. Our mother says how few human beings could bear to know what is going to happen. So we need to be ignorant, we need to be blind in order that we can do what we have to do in the world. So he says, don't impose on we human beings, we people who are still mortals, governed by ignorance and death, our tremulous breasts, our hearts that are full of fear and anxiety. Don't impose on us this dire ordeal. An ordeal is a painful test. This is a dire ordeal, a terrible, painful test that is foreknowledge, knowing in advance. Don't ask us to be divine in our actions. Demand not now the Godhead in our acts. One needs to be divine to be able to bear the ordeal of foreknowledge. So he says, don't ask that. He's trying to protect everybody. And then there's a long passage. We'll break it up a little bit. Berbel. Berbel would. Yes. Oh, it's only 6 lines, isn't it? Yes. Can you manage it, Berbel? Yes.
Here are not happy peaks, the heavens, room, or coils, or Vaikuntha's valleys there, are rough jagged hills, only the mighty clouds are here, their few dawn, even seem to rise. Far voices call down from dizzy rocks, shield slithering,
Precipitous. So he's explaining the difference between that divine world where Narad comes from and our world where we are here. He says that we don't live up in those divine heights, those happy peaks where the heaven nymphs roam, the apsaras, no? This is not Kailash. This is his old spelling of Kailash. This is not Shiva's mountain. And it's not Vaikuntha. This is not Vishnu's heaven where you have come from. No? That has this starry stare rising up, full of light. Here on earth, there are these steep, jagged hills. Jagged, it means they have sharp edges. Only the mighty can, the powerful, the great in soul, can climb up. Few dare even to think of climbing them. And he's not meaning actual physical mountains. He's talking about the challenges that human beings have to face. So, the heights of heroism which we're sometimes called upon to face. So, if we do try to climb up those heights, those dizzy rocks, they're so high that when you look down it makes you feel dizzy. No? There are voices down below calling you, trying to attract you down, trying to make you fall. And the paths are cold and slippery and very, very steep, precipitous. A precipice is a steep rock. No? It's like that. So it's very, the earth is full of dangers. Suresh?
Who thought the gods were with man's serving race in their Lord heavens by 12 exempt from fate, and I forget the wanted feet of man, his limbs that faint beneath the wheels of grief, his heart that hears the tread of time and death.
Thank you. Aswapati complains. He says the gods, the divine beings, are too hard on human beings, on this fragile race of man. Fragile means something that breaks easily. No? If we send a parcel, it may have a sign on it of a glass that can break easily. Fragile, breakable. Human beings break easily, and those higher powers, they forget that, he says. The gods are living up there in their wide heavens, large heavens. They are living, and they are exempt from fate. It means if you're exempt, tax exemption, you don't have to pay the taxes. They are exempt from fate. They don't have to bear these determinisms, these determining factors that all human beings have to face. So they forget about the sufferings of human beings, the wounded feet as we walk on the path of life, our feet get blisters and wounds in them. And the limbs, the body faints beneath the whips of grief. If we're always being beaten by suffering, that makes us weak. You know? And they forget about the human heart that's always hearing the tread of time. Time is passing, death is coming nearer. They are not, they don't have to think about that. They don't realize what it's like to be human. I'll just read a couple more sentences. The future's road is hid from mortal sight. He moves towards a veiled and secret face. To light one step in front is all his hope, and only for a little strength he asks to meet the riddle of his shrouded fate. Human beings, earlier in the poem, Aurobindo says, human beings stare into the future's hidden face. We would like to see into the future. We try to see into the future. But the future's road is hidden from the sight of human beings. And a human being moves towards that face of the future which is veiled, which is secret. We never know what is going to happen. So we just hope that maybe we can get enough light to know what is the next step to take. To light one step in front is all our hope. And we want to have just enough strength to be able to meet the riddle, the mystery of our fate, whatever it may be, our shrouded fate, our fate which is covered in darkness. We can't see it. Shall we go on and come to the end of the speech at the bottom, page, the line at the bottom of the page? Yeah? Rosa.
Vague.
Yes? Yes?
Vague and how vague
Vague, yeah.
and how he force aware of danger to his uncertain course. He guards his flickering yearnings from her breast. He feels not when the dreadful fingers close around him with the grasp none can
Elude, yeah. Yes. Yeah. So there's, as we proceed on our human journey, there's a force waiting for us, a vague and half-seen force. Fate, destiny, death, perhaps. That's waiting for us. So human beings always are aware of danger. Our hours are uncertain. There's the knowledge that we can't foresee what's going to happen. And so we try to protect those things that we want to happen. Our flickering yearnings, even our yearnings, the things that we long for, sometimes we long for them and sometimes we don't. We don't have a steady, ever-burning will. It is flickering like a candle in the wind, unfortunately, because of the incapacity of our human will. But we try to protect the things that we want to happen from the breath of that force that is waiting. And we don't feel when those dreadful fingers, when the hands of fate are closing around us, when they get hold of us, we can't escape. The grasp, none can elude the grasp of pain and suffering and disaster. Dhanalakshmi.
If thou comest lose her breath, then only speak. Perhaps from the iron snare there is escape. Our mind perhaps deceives us with its words and gives the name of doom to our own choice. Perhaps the blindness of our will is fate.
So he says, if you are able to save us from that danger, then only speak. If there's a way of escape, perhaps from this iron snare. A snare is a trap, a very, very strong trap, iron snap. Perhaps there's a way to escape. Perhaps our own mind is misleading us, deceiving us with its words, and especially when it speaks about doom. Perhaps it gives the name of doom to something that is the result of our own choice. So perhaps the blindness of our will is fate. Perhaps we create our fate, the disaster or whatever it is that's going to happen to us, by our own ignorance. So if there's a way of escape, then please tell us. Otherwise, keep silent. So we'll stop there for today. Anybody has anything they would like to ask? So shall we read these lines together? From line 305.
But Narad answered not. Silent he sat, knowing that words are vain and fate is Lord. He looked into the unseen with seeing eyes. Then, dallying with the mortal's ignorance, like one who knows not, questioning, he cried, on what high mission went her hastening wheels? Whence came she with this glory in her heart, and paradise made visible in her eyes? What sudden God has met? What face supreme? To whom the king? The red Asoka watched her going forth, which now sees her return. Arisen into an air of flaming dawn, like a bright bird tired of her lonely branch, to find her own Lord, since to her on earth he came not yet. This sweetness wandered forth, cleaving her way with the beat of her rapid wings. Led by a distant call, her vague swift flight threaded the summer morns and sunlit lands. The happy rest her burdened lashes keep, and these charmed guardian lips hold treasured still. Virgin who comest, perfected by joy, Reveal the name thy sudden heartbeats learned. Whom hast thou chosen, kingliest among men? And Savitri answered with her still, calm voice, as one who speaks beneath the eyes of fate. Father and King, I have carried out thy will. One whom I sought, I found in distant lands. I have obeyed my heart, I have heard its call. On the borders of a dreaming wilderness, mid Shalwa's giant hills and brooding woods, in his thatched hermitage Dyumatsena dwells, blind, exiled, outcast, once a mighty king. The son of Dyumatsena, Satyavan, I have met on the wild forest's lonely verge. My father, I have chosen, this is done. Astonished, all sat silent for a space. Then Asvapati looked within and saw a heavy shadow float above the name, chased by a sudden and stupendous light. He looked into his daughter's eyes and spoke. Well hast thou done, and I approve thy choice. If this is all, then all is surely well. If there is more, then all can still be well. Whether it seem good or evil to men's eyes, only for good the secret will can work. Our destiny is written in double terms. Through nature's contraries we draw nearer God. Out of the darkness we still grow to light. Death is our road to immortality. Cry woe, the world's lost voices wail, yet conquers the eternal good at last. Then might the sage have spoken, but the king in haste broke out and stayed the dangerous word. O singer of the ultimate ecstasy, lend not a dangerous vision to the blind, because by native right thou hast seen clear. Impose not on the mortal's tremulous breast the dire ordeal that foreknowledge brings. Demand not now the Godhead in our acts. Here are not happy peaks the heaven nymphs roam, or Kailas, or Vaikunta's starry stair. Abrupt, jagged hills only the mighty climb are here where few dare even think to rise. Far voices call down from the dizzy rocks, chill, slippery, precipitous are the paths. Too hard the gods are with man's fragile race. In their large heavens they dwell, exempt from fate, and they forget the wounded feet of man, his limbs that faint beneath the whips of grief, his heart that hears the tread of time and death. The future's road is hid from mortal sight. He moves towards a veiled and secret face. To light one step in front is all his hope, and only for a little strength he asks to meet the riddle of his shrouded fate. Awaited by a vague and half-seen force, aware of danger to his uncertain hours, he guards his flickering yearnings from her breath. He feels not when the dreadful fingers close around him with the grasp none can elude. If thou canst loose her grip, then only speak. Perhaps from the iron snare there is escape. Our mind perhaps deceives us with its words and gives the name of doom to our own choice. Perhaps the blindness of our will is fate.